Hello and welcome to the video. I'm Jimmy the Mower and today we're going to be assembling a Ransomes Parkway Magna 250 cutting head rear roller. This is the rear roller assembly for the Ransomes 250, Parkway 3, 2250, 2250 plus and whatever other variant there is at the moment. These are the cutting heads rear rollers. Magna 250s, these are off. You can get them on the Sports 200s, Magna lights, things like that. Pretty similar on other mowers. I'm not 100% sure. I do a lot with Ransomes. So rear rollers, they're wear parts. Okay, this is a brand new roller. As you can see, it's nice and shiny. We sit it here. These little spindles in the end, they turn round. What it is, or how it works, in fact, is we put these into these shoes and these are gripped on the end. And these are gripped and then the roller spins and these stay static and it works both ends. But if the bearing should fail at any time and you're mid-mow, they will start to spin in the housing, which isn't ideal, but it stops everything from breaking and falling apart and allows you to finish your cut or get to the end of the stripe or whatever you're doing. Now, to change a roller in the field is quite a difficult thing, but we keep a couple of these rear roller assemblies in the truck with us at all times. We know that they can go, they can hit something, the bearings can break down and they can go. Sometimes you get a bit of warning, sometimes you don't, you just never know. There used to be greasable bearings in these, your grease nipple on the end and you'd force the grease inside and it would coat them and keep them rust free and relatively dry out of moisture. However, now they've moved to sealed for life bearings. And you know what? It doesn't make any difference either way, whether they're greasable or sealed for life. We still get through a roller per cutting head about every 250 to 300 hours, depending on what you're working on. Sometimes that's a season for somebody, sometimes it's 2 seasons for somebody, sometimes it's half a season for somebody, who knows. But I thought I'd just make a quick video to show you exactly how to assemble these back together and then you can keep one spare. Buy the spare parts, set one up, keep it in your van or in your workshop, and if you ever have a problem, you can just swap it over and then you've got plenty of time to dismantle all of this and put it all back together. Okay, so I'll just make sure I've got everything here and then we'll start. Everything seems present and correct, so I'll turn this round and we'll assemble it. Now, the way it goes together, we put this bit on first. That sits on there, okay? This sits up against the cylinder. Sometimes they can wear on the back quite badly. They cut a groove in there. It's not the end of the world. They're not scrap. They just need to keep an eye on them. They will wear through and they will break eventually, okay? So they sit there on there like that. Next, we have these, the actual height adjuster. Now, we've done loads of videos on height adjusting, setting height of cut and different things like that. So have a look in the description and it will all be in there. You have to make sure these go on the right way, okay? So it's basically this sloping bit goes forward. So if they're cutting the grass that way, that's the way it goes, all right? So that fits in there. So I'll have this bit on and then this bit on here, right? I think that's right, is it? Just double check. Double check, even after all these years, I still double check. And that holds that in there. Now, to hold that in place, we have a rubber which fits on the shaft. Now these rubbers, we've tried all different types of rubber for these, right? You've got to buy genuine ones. There's no way of getting around this. They need to be genuine. These grip this shaft here and they stop it spinning, right? So that sits in there. I'll just pull that off for a second. Goodness me, that's a tight fit. Stuck on already. Right, that sits in there. That grips that holds it in. And then last but not least, we've got this small plate that sits on the end and holds everything together and stops it coming through. So I'll just take this apart. I'll put a little bit of spray on. Now, you can put a bit of spray on there, a bit of light oil, whatever you want, just to make sure it's nice and easy to fit everything. So we'll put this on. Then we'll put the rubber on. Now, the rubber, there's a little circle cut out in the middle of there. If you can see, right there, you should be able to see that. And then the rubber sits inside that circle like that, okay? So it sits in there. So this goes on. The rubber then goes on, pushes down. Now, sometimes if the roller is a second-hand roller or a refurbished roller, they're a little bit tricky to get on. and they are definitely tricky to get off. To take these apart, it's just the same procedure but in reverse. Okay, so we put that on and make sure it's on as far as it will go. Now this fits on over the top. This is where there's a bit of jigging about sometimes, but hopefully with this, I'll put a quick squirt of spray on. Hopefully with this, it'll just sit over the top. So let's just try. I might have to stand it up and lean on it a bit. No, that's gone in. It has gone in. That's good. Right, so that's in there. That's that done. That's how that works. This attaches to the back of the cutting head, and we put two 17mm bolts through there, and that holds it on. We know it's the right way around because the grease nipple sits on the inside. If the grease nipple sat on the outside, it get covered in grime. So it sits on the inside. It still gets covered in grime, but at least you know it's on the inside, and you've got a better chance of keeping it on there and not knocking it off. Right, now the plate goes over the top. I'm going to have to turn this round a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. But once I've got that on, I'll be able to show you. Again, we'll just put a little bit of something in there just to hold the plate on. Where did I put the plate? There it is. We pop that on there, like so. Now, these bolts, they're long threaded bolts. They go through. There's no thread in this bit. It's threaded in the back here, in this little sleeve that fits on at the back. That's where it's threaded. So you've got to try and jig this round and match it up so that they go in. And that one has gone in. I have a little bit of spray on this one. Use new nuts and bolts normally when we're putting them together. I'm just putting this one together quickly as an example. And some of the older cutting heads, they'll be smaller. There'll be 10mm pins on there. Now, the 10mm pins on here, they tend to shear off a little bit. The 13s do as well, but the 10s we did have a lot of problems with. These are sat in dirt, muck, soil, water, everything all season, so you know they take a fair bit of battering, right? And then we just literally tighten these up a few turns because quite a long thread on there. I'm going to try and do them up evenly, because if you put them in evenly, it pulls it nice and evenly over that rubber, which makes sure it pinches the rubber tight and sits properly in the seat where it's supposed to go. Sometimes you get some problems, people don't push the rubber on, they compress the rubber and they get a gap in between the two. When you've got a gap in between the two, you start to get a bit of play. The bearings, instead of just moving round in a single plane, they start to move side to side, and that's when they break down quite quickly. So we just tighten these up evenly. Let's do the other side then. Now, I haven't got to talk you through this because I've already done it on the other side, but we'll just leave it going, might even speed it up if everything goes to plan. That on. Right, I had a little bit of bother with the rubber there. It wouldn't quite sit back as well as I hoped it would. So I put the bolts in and just pushed it down a little bit with the bolts, and they just squeezed it in. Rather than putting the plate on and trying to squeeze it all together, sometimes you get a bulge in the rubber and it'll lift out. So that was the reason behind putting the bolts in now. Now, put the plate on the outside. We'll be able to see. Try and push it in a little bit more if I can. You might be able to see all the fluid leaking out the front there, so that's where it is. And the rubber sits in that recess at the back and just through into here. If you have any problems with these, you can just give them a quick rub out with an emery cloth. when we do dismantle them, we normally soak them in a paraffin bath or some degreaser or something and go through it all, and then you can just rub a little bit of emery cloth round just to take off any burrs or any slight little nicks or kinks in there, and it works a treat. And then these just simply go back on the top and clamp it all together. Does also help actually if you put these bolts in first for pre-lining up the holes, because you know that this assembly is lined up with a rear assembly, because you're going through 1, 2 and into a third. So this is the threaded one, and they just slide through the middle section. I should be able to do this up now. And again, just evenly, when we're doing it up, apply a bit of pressure to each side, and then as you pull it up, it'll just pull it in nice and neatly instead of twisting things round inside. Those rubber seals, they're really good, to be honest. They're really good for the pressure they have to take and everything they have to deal with. They last a long time. I very rarely get a problem with those in a season. Right, I think that's about as tight. Oh, a little bit more maybe. It's funny, that's it, you do one side then the other, and it releases a bit more pressure on you. You can get a little bit more on it then. So we can do that. We can tighten everything up finally when it's reassembled back onto the cutting head. Now, we've done all that. There we have the actual roller assembly. That's how it works. And you can see it moves backwards and forwards perfectly. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. That's what it's designed to do. Now, the only thing we've got left to do is fit this scraper wire. The scraper wire takes the grass off the back of the roller. When we're cutting grass, spraying grass out, it gets sprayed on from the front and it comes round and gets picked up on the roller, especially when it's damp. And this scraper wire comes through the back of here, right, runs along and sits quite taut against that rear roller. Now, you have a 13mm on the end, which I've already put on. So the 13mm on there. We've got a spring washer or compression washer behind it, okay? And then there's a little, this is 7mm hex. I don't know if you can see that, but that's 7mm hex on there. And that's what you use to tighten it up. We'll thread this end through, all the way through there, and thread it through this side. And then that's that done. And then we've got this on here. I'm not going to tighten it up. I'll move it round for you. Just give me a second to move it round. I've turned it round then, which was easier said than done with a wire only halfway in. Right, we've got the end just poking out the thread there. We put our washer on, right, and then belt and braces approach, we put a nylock nut on there. You can just put a normal nut if you like, but I prefer a nylock because I'm not going to go too far. And explain the reasoning behind that. I could get this wire really taut. I've got a 7mm somewhere. This is the one. And the 7mm, I'll get a photograph of this so you can see clearly. The 7mm, no, it's not 7mm. It is a 7mm, sorry, yeah. I've got the wrong, I've got double-ended spanner, 6mm and 7mm. So it's a 7mm and it fits on there, right? And then you just grab your socket and stick it on and twist away and you can tighten that up. And you think, whoa, brilliant. I've got great tension on this scraper wire, superb. Then you go to fit this to the cutting head, and because it's pulled in so taut, it's pulling these out at the side and it won't fit properly. So what we do is we leave this slack. We put the nylock nut on so it won't come off. You can give it a couple of turns if you like, and you can put that on and it won't come off. We know it's on at the other end, just a few mil on. So that's it. So it's not going to drop off now. And then we can just put this in the back of our van, in the workshop somewhere, wherever you want to keep it, and you can just put it down and that's it. You've got a rear roller assembly already done. But as an added bonus, I've got a cutting head on the floor, which we had reground, and I've taken the one off there, and I'm just going to put this on there to show you how they're fit back on. Okay, give me a couple of moments because they are big heavy units, so I'm going to have to get it up onto the bench and I'm going to have to come round to your side so you can see what I'm doing, and then we'll tighten it all up.